Hey everyone, this is LizBot3000. Welcome to another episode of Starbound. Today we're doing something a little different. We are going to be building a haunted house. So stick with me, this will be an interesting ride. I hope you enjoy it. The first big tool that we're going to be exploring today is actually going to be in the console. It is the spawn item command, and you have to give yourself admin privileges first. So first, to bring up the chat box, press enter, and then you're going to do /admin and hit enter. That'll let you do all these fun things. But the one we're going to be playing with is the spawn item command. So once you have given yourself admin privileges, you're going to hit enter, /spawn item, and then a space, and then the item ID of whatever you wish to spawn. So here at the beginning of the episode, we're going to be spawning a lot of materials and blocks. And so I'm going to slow down every time I spawn a new material so you can pause the game and see the idea of what exactly I am spawning. Please note that the command is case sensitive. Do not use uppercase. It'll be like, no, that's not a thing. And you're like, but spawn item is spawn item. If you give an incorrect ID, it will chuck out some perfectly generic items, which name that reference, by the way. So here we have a new tool. I don't see many people use this, and it's highly underrated. It is the paint tool, and you will have to have a fully upgraded matter manipulator to use it. So up in the top middle of your toolbar, the second from the right of the middle bit is the paint. And when you click on it, it'll pop up a little line of a color, and all you have to do is left click and drag wherever you want that color to be. If you want to change the color, all you have to do is right click and it'll cycle through all the different colors like you can see here. I tried green, no. Blue, no. Pink, no. Black, no. White. No. And if you click one more time, you saw it just briefly there. It actually looks like the color line disappears completely. When you paint with that empty line, it actually removes any painting that you've done and it goes back to the block's natural color. So yeah, being able to paint everything black is pretty much integral to the spookification of our haunted house, which is totally a word, by the way. So here, I actually just spawned a bunch of lights because it was dark and I cannot see. But for the record, one of the debug commands you can do in the game is to make the game so you can see everything at full brightness. It is going to be /full-bright, which also has the bonus of not having colored light. You'll notice that these are all blue, which is not great for painting when you're trying to color match everything. So here we are working on what is going to be the dining room, trying to decide just how fancy I want to be, if I want to go with the same wood paneling and classic wallpaper combo as the living room, or if I want to try something a little different. Decided to go full wallpaper. Here is going to be my kitchen. I'm trying to decide what I want the background to be, and I decided on some painted brick, which actually I don't know that I've ever actually seen in game before. But I found it when I was poking around, and I thought it would be perfect for this. One resource that I used that was absolutely invaluable to building this house is the official Starbound wiki, which is starbounder.org. And I will link to that in the description. It just has so much information. I always have it up whenever I'm playing the game, and you're really able to poke around by theme, by tag. Really, there's just a wealth of information, and I'm still discovering everything to it. The other resource I use that is new to me is from a website called commands.gg. It's a resource apparently for a bunch of different admin and console commands for different games. So the one I use obviously is going to be commands.gg/starbound. It's where I learned a few different commands, not just the admin and spawn item, but there's also a spawn creature, and then there's a bunch of debug commands as well. This in particular is where I got the ID code for every item. The Starbounder wiki is good if you want to search by like item names, but the commands.gg is great for item codes, ID codes. What I decided I wanted to do down here, I decided to up the creep factor, and let's have some straight up Lovecraftian stuff going on down here. So why not have a little tentacle horror coming up from the well? It took a lot of fiddling. A lot of fiddling to get this how I wanted it. I had an idea in my head, and then, of course, as you work through it in real life, you're like, I don't know. And so I definitely played a lot. And I could have played, honestly, for hours to get it just right. But you and I both have places we need to be other than YouTube. So for time's sake, I definitely cut it short. So we could both do things other than sit and watch YouTube for hours at a time. Not that we don't already do that, am I right? Am I right? And here I'm playing with the actual tentacles in the game. It's under Tentacle Pipe. And it was fun. It was fiddly, but it was fun. Actually getting to make the tentacle horror come out of the well. And again, here's another one where I could have fiddled for hours upon hours. But the point isn't to make a video where you watch me do the same thing over and over 50 times. The point is to make a video that gives you ideas of what you can do in the game. And then here, I did the all-important teleport flag. You can create this just in your regular crafting menu. You don't have to have any stations. But once you craft your flag, you set it down, you give it a name, and then you can teleport to it from any other teleporter. There, I decided to make the tower taller and then decided I didn't like that, so let's tear it down and do something new. Here we're going ludicrous speed because it's just clearing out the native land, and that doesn't require anything special other than a fully upgraded matter manipulator. I chose a jungle planet for this one because, well, first of all, it has the spookiest backgrounds. I mean, look at those trees in the background. That jungle with the black trees and the purple leaves. I thought it would be a great backdrop. But also the rain just makes it super spooky as well. And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. Here, I decided I wanted to paint the entire basement. And then here I decided I wanted to unpaint all of the brick in the foreground. So here's just some really sped up clearing out and just getting the easy stuff out of the way. So as I finish up building out this haunted house, I am going to pause the recording actually to furnish it, because there was a lot of fiddling here, a lot of moving, a lot of searching, a lot of pausing. So we're going to skip all the boring parts and just take you through the house already furnished. That'll be the quickest and most useful thing to you guys, so you can see all the different kinds of items that are available for you to furnish your haunted house. So I'm going to go room by room and walk through all these items. I'm going to give you their ID tag if you want to use the spawn item command. And I'm also going to tell you where you can find them if you don't want to use the admin command. So starting off in the bedroom, we have spooky candles, which can be found in frog furnishing. Then we have the spooky bed, then the spooky tomb chair, and then skipping over, we have the spooky clock. All of these can be found at frog furnishing, depending on the day. Last in this room, we have the medieval candle, which I don't think you can craft or buy it anywhere, but you can steal it from pretty much any village you come across in the game. And then tier 1 table, which is something you can craft yourself at your workbench. Moving on to the library, starting at the top, working our way down, we have the Gothic Arch, whose ID tag is actually Prison Arch. Next, the wall sconces are Classic Light. And then we have the first of a few items that you can only get through the admin console. You cannot find, buy, or steal these items anywhere in the game. You have to cheat to get them. So the one on the left is the Decorative Ancient Pot, ID tag Ancient Pot 4. And next to it is the Tall Ancient Pot, which is Ancient Pot 5. Next we got a pair of Gothic bookcases, then a Gothic couch, and a Gothic chair. Moving on to the dining room, starting from the top and working from the left to the right, we have the classic chandelier hanging from the ceiling. On the left, once again, we have the Tall Ancient Pot, which is Ancient Pot 5. And then we have the Wide Ancient Pot, which is Ancient Pot 6. Again, we have the Spooky Candles and the Decorative Ancient Pot, which is Ancient Pot 4. Again, we have the Gothic Chair and the Iron Table, which is Tier 1 table. And on the table, we have the Small Ancient Pot, which is Ancient Pot 6, and the Rounded Ancient Pot, which is Ancient Pot 2. Alright, moving on to the kitchen. Hang tight, we got a lot of items here. Many of these can be found in Frog Furnishing on the day that he's selling the farm-themed items. So starting from the top, working our way down left to right, we have the fluorescent light. It can be found in Apex apartments, prisons, and Hylatl apartments. We have the shelf, which is the medieval wall shelf, which you can find in glitch dungeons and villages. On it, we've got some ancient pots that we've already seen, as well as an empty root pot bottle, which is Smashable Drink 2. Like the ancient pots, this one can only be spawned through the console. It cannot be found in-game. Next, we have the kitchen tools, which can be found in glitch and Hylatl villages. We have the owl clock, which you can find in forest micro-dungeons. We have the kitchen shelf, which again is Frog Furnishing. We have the kitchen table, again, Frog Furnishing, on top of which is a box of bread, baguette box, which, again, Frog Furnishing. Then we have the standard issue oven, which is the Apex oven, which you can find in Apex apartments and dungeons. The kitchen counters are Kitchen Cabinet 1, which is from Frog Furnishing. And we have the standard issue fridge, which is the Apex fridge, which you can find in Apex apartments and dungeons. And lastly, we have the tall kitchen cabinet, which is Kitchen Cabinet 2, which you can also find at Frog Furnishing. Moving on to the first floor, there's only a few new things here, so we're going to breeze on through. Outside on the front porch is the classic ceiling light, which is Classic Light Art. This item does not exist in the current version of the game, but its assets are still in the code, so we can spawn it in the console, but otherwise you can't find it anywhere. Next, we have the Venus de Pixel. That one's a bit of an in-game secret, so I'll let you figure out that one. Next, we have the themed chess table, which is glitch chess, which you can find at glitch villages. And then lastly, on the back porch, we have some wind chimes, which are shadow chimes, and you can find these in the midnight micro dungeons. Okay, moving on to the dungeon. First, we have the Skull Wall Torch. You can find these sold by the Bonesmith merchant tenants. Hanging from the ceiling, we have some tungsten chain, and you can craft this at an industrial workbench. Hanging from the chain is some brain, which is Brains Block. You can find this in the ruin at the end of the game, but it takes literally 3 minutes to mine, so you're better off just spawning it through the spawn item command. On the ground, we have some bones on a pike, which is hunting pike 1. These are pretty common around the game. You can usually find them in Florin areas, though. We have the sacrificial altar, which you can find in avian temples and dungeons. And then we have the skull on a pike, which is hunting pike 2, and it's the same as the other hunting pike. Over here, we have the skull torch stand, which is just skull torch, and you can find these in Florin canyons. And then we have the wall shackles, which you can find in glitch areas, and same as the ball and chain, also found in glitch areas. Lastly, we have the Doom chair, which is a reward from procedural tenant quests, and the Doom table, which is the same. Our last room of our haunted house is the underground. Starting at the top, we have the small hive light, which is hive light 2. Like the others, you can't just get this in-game, you have to spawn it through the spawn item command. The rest of the items in this area are crafted from blueprints that you can find in hive chests in the hive mini biomes. So from the left, we have the hive lamp, the hive bed, the hive chair, and the hive table. So that is how you build a haunted house. Obviously, there's many ways to build a haunted house, but this one is mine. And next week, we will actually haunt our haunted house, which will involve critters, monsters, tenants, and most importantly, the wiring tool, which is a often neglected function within the game that I don't see used very often. So yeah, thanks for sticking with me, and I will see you next week.